The cold battlefield. The ground was frozen. Snowflakes danced through the air. Burned war machines lay scattered across the battlefield. The war between humans and aliens had lasted too long. No one remembered who started it. Everyone only knew how to fight. Captain Varel, an alien warrior, walked slowly through the wreckage. Her boots crunched on the icy ground. She wore dark armor and carried a sleek plasma rifle. Her green skin shimmered slightly in the pale light. Her sharp eyes scanned everything. She was searching for survivors. Or enemies. Suddenly, her ears twitched. A faint sound came from under a broken metal plate. A soft groan. She pointed her rifle forward and moved closer, step by step. Carefully, she kicked the plate aside. There he was, a human soldier, blood on his face, his uniform torn, one leg clearly broken, but he was still breathing. Varel narrowed her eyes. Her finger touched the trigger of her rifle. This was her moment. One less human, one less threat. She raised the gun to his head. The human opened one eye. A slow, tired grin spread on his face. Any last words, human? Varel asked coldly. The man smiled wider. Yeah, he said, voice hoarse but calm. Safety's on. Click. Her finger pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. She glanced at her weapon. He was right. In her rush, she had forgotten to disengage. The safety. A rookie mistake. Before she could react, the human moved. With surprising speed for an injured man, he grabbed the barrel of her gun, twisted it, and yanked it from her hands. She stumbled back in shock, slipping on the ice. But then something unexpected happened. He didn't shoot her. He didn't even aim the weapon at her. Instead, he tossed the rifle aside and leaned back against the wall, breathing heavily. Blood trickled from his lip. His head rested against the cold metal behind him. You're lucky, he said, closing his eyes. I don't like killing. Varel sat frozen. She could have died. He had the perfect chance. Why didn't he take it? She stared at him for a long moment. He looked tired, not just physically. His face showed deep exhaustion, like someone who had seen too much, lost too much, and was just done with fighting. Varel slowly stood and walked toward him. Her hand hovered near her belt, ready to draw a blade if needed. What's your name? She asked. Name? The human muttered. Does it matter? She frowned. It does to me. He opened one eye again and looked at her. Ronan, he said at last. Sergeant Ronan Hayes, Earth Infantry. Varel nodded. Captain Varel, Zenthian Strike Force. The two soldiers sat in silence, the wind howling around them. Varel finally broke the silence. Why didn't you kill me? Ronan shrugged. You forgot your safety. Honest mistake. I've done it too, and I've seen enough death. She tilted her head. You're different. He gave a tired chuckle. People always say that. Before they shoot me anyway. Instead of anger, Varel felt something else, curiosity, maybe even guilt. She pulled out a small comm device. Her squad would return soon. She had to decide, report him or help him. Ronan looked at her. You gonna call your friends? Maybe, she said. Then do it, he said calmly. I'm too tired to run or fight. But Varel didn't move. She watched the snow fall gently on his shoulders. A human, an enemy, but not a monster. She remembered her younger brother. He had died last winter, killed by a human airstrike. She had sworn to kill every human she saw, and yet, here she stood, confused, unsure. You spared me, she said quietly. Why? Ronan looked up at the gray sky. Because someone once spared me, and maybe that means something. In the distance, a low sound echoed, the hum of approaching engines. Varel stood up. If I don't call for pickup now, she said, my squad will think I'm dead. Ronan nodded. Then you should call. She stared at him and turned. Off her comm, He looked at her, surprised. "You just sealed your fate," he said. She nodded. "Or maybe I changed it." They sat in silence again. Two enemies, in a frozen battlefield. And something, just something, had shifted. Ronan woke up to metal walls and harsh blue lights above his head. His wrists were chained to a cold bench. His leg had been wrapped in a tight brace, but it still throbbed with pain. The air smelled like oil and heat. Alien voices echoed in the background. Shouts, commands, static through radios. He was inside a Zenthian military base. Two guards stood at the door, tall and silent, watching him with unreadable expressions. He tilted his head and gave them a half smile. "So," he said, "I guess breakfast isn't coming?" Neither answered. Moments later, the door hissed open and Captain Varel walked in. Her posture was stiff. Her long jacket swayed behind her as she stepped closer. She didn't speak right away. She just stared at him. Ronan returned her gaze calmly. "You could have run," she said at last. He shrugged. "I couldn't leave. You standing out there with a gun that didn't work. You still could have killed me, you should have. I don't shoot people who hesitate." Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She motioned to a small screen beside the wall, and a chair slid out from it. She sat down, folding her arms. "You're a prisoner now. This is not Earth. Here, you don't get lawyers or mercy." "Yeah?" Ronan said. "Then what do I get?" Varel leaned forward slightly. "You get questions." He chuckled. "Ask away, but don't expect all the answers." For the next hour she questioned him. His mission, his rank, the location, of other humans. But he gave vague replies, sometimes joking, sometimes silent. He never begged, never pleaded. He didn't scream or curse. He sat like a rock in the middle of a storm. By the second day, they changed their tactics. He was brought to different rooms, made to stand for hours, surrounded by unfamiliar alien machines scanning him. One Zenthian technician pressed a needle-like device near his temple. Ronan didn't flinch. They tried to break him, but Ronan remained calm, smiling at guards, cracking dry jokes, and always watching. He watched every camera placement, every hallway, every shift change, every sigh the guards made. He listened to words he couldn't understand yet, but his brain stored them. Language, behavior, movement. He was learning. On the third night, Varel returned. She walked in and saw him still sitting upright, still alert, still, annoyingly, calm. She sat again. This time, she didn't ask questions. "You're not like other humans I've met," she said. "You haven't met the right ones," Ronan said. She leaned back, folding her arms. "Why do you act like you're in control?" Looked around the room. "Because I'm not panicking. You expect me to cry, beg, scream? I'm not giving you that." She frowned. "Are you mocking me?" "No," he said, leaning forward slightly. "I'm watching you." She stiffened. "Why?" "Because something's off here. You don't hate me. Not really. You're trying to convince yourself I'm a threat. But if I was, you'd have killed me already." There was a long silence. Only the hum of machines filled the air between them. "You're a strange man," she said. "Strange times," he replied. That night, as guards moved him to another cell, one of them shoved him harder than usual. Ronan stumbled and fell. His broken leg hit the floor hard. He gasped but didn't scream. The other guard sneered. "Weak." Ronan looked up at them with cold eyes. "Do I look weak to you?" One guard raised his baton. The other one hesitated, but let it happen. Ronan took the beating without a sound. Later, alone in his new cell, he lay on the floor, breathing slow and shallow. His lip was split, his arms bruised, but his mind was still working. Varel returned in the morning. She looked at his wounds and said nothing. She just stared. Then she placed a small ration cube on the table and slid it toward him. "No tricks?" Ronan asked, lifting an eyebrow. "Eat," she said softly. He took the cube, chewed slowly, and nodded. Still terrible. She almost smiled. As she turned to leave, he said, "You know, they didn't follow your orders last night." She stopped. "I thought soldiers followed their captain," he added. Varel said nothing, but her tail flicked sharply. Ronan grinned despite his pain. "Guess I'm not the only prisoner here." When she walked out, she didn't slam the door. That night. Ronan leaned against the wall, still bruised, still chained, but smiling faintly. He knew the cracks were showing. Not in the walls, in her. The power went out just after midnight. The lights blinked twice, then darkness swallowed the entire corridor. In Ronan's cell, the air vents stopped humming. Even the wall panels, always glowing dim blue, went dark. Silence fell. A kind of silence that made every breath louder. Then in the distance, sirens, fast footsteps, shouting in Zenthian. Ronan's eyes adjusted quickly. He had counted on this. For days, he had listened to the rhythms of the base, the hum of the backup generator, the time between guard rotations. He knew this outage wasn't just an accident. He smiled to himself. It had started. He pulled his arms forward slowly. The energy cuffs around his wrists were off now. No buzzing, no glow, no shock. He took a deep breath, stood and limped to the edge of the door. He knew the hallway would be chaos, but before he could step out, something made him stop. A cry. Not an alarm. A child's cry. He looked down the dark corridor. Through the dim, flashing emergency lights, he saw something small, and huddled in the hallway. A child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, alien, thin, shaking, alone. Ronan didn't think. He just moved. Ignoring the pain in his leg, he half ran, half limped to the child. Kneeling beside her, he saw her eyes full of terror. Her small body trembled as another tremor shook the base. "Hey," Ronan whispered softly. "It's okay. I got you." She stared at him, this human she had probably been taught to fear. But his voice was gentle, his hands careful. Her eyes blinked once, then slowly reached for him. He scooped her into his arms and turned toward the far end of the corridor where emergency lights flickered weakly. He moved fast, looking for a place to hide her. He found an open storage room and slid inside. Metal crates filled the space. He tucked her behind the largest one and covered her with his jacket. "You stay here," he said gently. "No one will find you." She reached out and grabbed his hand, trembling. "Scared. I know," he whispered. "But you're strong. Strong like a warrior." She nodded slowly and her tiny fingers let go. Ronan stood and left the room quietly, just as the lights buzzed and flickered back to life. He walked straight into Captain Varel. Her plasma gun was aimed right at him. She stared in shock. "How? Are you free?" He raised his hands, slow and calm. "Your cuffs failed. Not my fault." "You could have run," she said, voice tense. "You could have taken weapons, hurt people." "But I didn't," he said. "I helped a child instead." Her eyes narrowed. "What child?" He stepped aside and pointed at the storage room. She moved past him, weapon still raised, and looked inside. A soft gasp escaped her lips. The child. Her niece. Yelra? The little girl peeked up and smiled with teary eyes. "Auntie." Varel dropped her weapon to her side. She bent down and picked up the girl, holding her close. "How did she get out?" she whispered. Ronan replied, "Maybe she was forgotten, or maybe she was just scared like the rest of us." Varel turned to him, stunned. "You saved her?" He nodded once. "Because she needed help. Because she's a child. And because, maybe, just maybe, I'm not your enemy." She looked at him for a long time, then slowly walked past him, carrying the girl. Ronan followed. Back in the holding room, 2 guards rushed forward, ready to strike. "He escaped," one shouted. "No," Varel said sharply. "He saved my niece. Stand down." They hesitated, then obeyed. She turned to Ronan. "Why? Why risk everything? You had a perfect chance to flee." He sat back down, calm. Because she reminded me of someone. A girl I lost back on Earth. War took her too. Varel said nothing. She just stared at this human who didn't match the stories she'd heard, the human who had every reason to hate her kind, but still chose kindness. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly. He smiled. "Neither, are you?" For the first time, her guard slipped. Just for a second, she sighed, looked down at her niece and then at Ronan. "You'll need to be moved," she said. "To a worse cell?" "No," she said. "Somewhere safer. Somewhere quieter." He raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to scare me?" "No," she said with a strange tone. "It's supposed to protect you." Then she added something unexpected. "You helped her. That matters." As the guards led him away, Ronan glanced back at Varel, still holding the girl tightly, her face unsure, torn between duty and something else, maybe trust, maybe more. The new room was smaller, quieter, and had no chains. A single cot, a cracked wall panel, and a camera in the corner. Ronan sat on the edge of the bed, watching the broken part of the wall where tiny wires sparked occasionally. It wasn't much, but it was better than before. There were no beatings. No threats, just silence, and one question repeating in his mind. Why did she move me here? Captain Varel hadn't visited in 2 days. He knew something was changing. Then on the third night she came. No guards, just her. Her armor looked the same, but her face didn't. She looked tired. Not from war, but from thinking too much. Her didn't speak at first, just stared at him like she was searching for something. Ronan stayed calm, his hands resting on his knees. Finally, she pulled something from her coat, a small, flat device, and tossed it to him. "What's this?" he asked, catching it. "Play it," she said. He tapped the screen. A video started. Static cleared, and a recording showed a human soldier in a meeting with Zenthian generals. Not fighting, not yelling, talking, calm, offering peace. Ronan frowned. "This was on before the war," she nodded. "Our leadership told us humans rejected peace. They said your people fired the first shot." He looked up at her. "And now you see they lied." "Yes." Silence. "I found that recording buried in a data archive," she said. "I wasn't supposed to see it. I think it was hidden on purpose." Ronan sat back slowly. "So now you know." Varel clenched her fists. "We started this war and blamed you." Ronan watched her face. It wasn't just shame. It was pain. She had lost people, believing she was fighting the right side. "How many humans did you kill thinking they were monsters?" he asked softly. "Too many," she whispered. "And how many of your people died because they were told to hate us?" She turned away, unable to answer. Ronan stood, limping closer. "You wanted to see the truth. That's why you moved me here. That's why you didn't turn me in for escaping." "I didn't expect you to be good," she said. "But you are." "I'm not good," he said. "I'm just tired of lies." Varel slowly turned back to him. "I don't know what to do." He looked at the camera in the corner. "Turn it off." She hesitated, then tapped her wrist. Device. The light on the camera went dark. "What I'm going to say next," Ronan said, lowering his voice, "might get us both killed." She nodded. "Say it anyway." "There's a place 2 floors below this one," he said. "A fuel room. There's a control panel near the west wall. It connects to the hangar door system." Her eyes widened. "How do you know that?" "Observation, listening, counting steps, watching guards. I may be a prisoner, but I never stopped being a soldier." "You're planning to escape." "I was. And now?" He looked at her carefully. "Now I'm not sure, because I think there's something more important." "Like what?" "Like stopping this war from getting worse." She folded her arms. "You think we can do that?" "I think we have to. Try." She hesitated, then slowly nodded. "Then let me show you something too." From her belt she pulled a small folded cloth. Inside was a thin metal pin with a human symbol on it. A peace crest. My brother took it from a human prisoner. Years ago, she said. He used it as a trophy. But I always felt it wasn't right. I kept it. She offered it to Ronan. He took it gently and stared at it. This was worn by a negotiator, not a fighter. Exactly. He looked into her eyes. You're risking everything by talking to me like this. I already started risking everything the moment I didn't shoot you, she said. They stood in silence, the air between them thick, not with fear but with trust. A moment passed, then another. Ronan broke the silence. Help me, not just to escape, but to reveal the truth. Let me get this recording to my people. Let them see who really started this war. She didn't answer right away. Her mind was racing. If she was caught, she'd be executed, labeled a traitor. Her name erased. But if she didn't, how many more would die? Finally, she nodded. I'll help you. Ronan exhaled, slowly. You just changed everything. No, she said, quietly. You did? When you saved that child? He smiled faintly. Let's break something bigger than these chains, then. The screen in the corner blinked back on, but neither of them noticed. Someone had been watching. Captain Varel paced the dark maintenance hallway, far below the command center. Her boots echoed softly against the metal floor as she checked the corners. It was late. Most of the base was quiet, the lights dimmed to nighttime settings. But her heart beat fast. This wasn't just a mission, it was betrayal, treason, and it had to work. 2 doors down, Ronan stood inside a storage room dressed in a stolen Zenthian uniform. The fit wasn't perfect, but it would do. He checked the cloth-wrapped recording device once more. It now held the proof of who started the war. If he could get it off this base and into the right hands, it might save thousands of lives. Varel entered the room, glancing over her shoulder. It's time, she whispered. Ronan nodded. Fuel room first? Yes. The panel on the west wall connects to every bay door. You'll access it. I'll create a distraction up top to delay the patrols. Ronan studied her. You trust me to do this alone? She looked at him seriously. You're the only one I do trust. For a moment, the tension faded between them. Not human and alien. Just 2 tired people fighting the same battle. Varel handed him a small silver key. It opens the tunnel hatch by the panel. It leads straight to the surface. Once you're out, head south. A cargo drop is scheduled for sunrise. Hide near the landing pad. He nodded, tucking the key into his belt. What about you? I'll stall them for as long as I can. You'll be blamed. I already am. She turned to leave, but paused. If they catch you, they won't, he said. And if they do, I'll take the fall alone. She met his eyes, nodded once, and disappeared into the shadows. Ronan waited 30 seconds, then slipped into the hallway. He moved, fast, limping only slightly now, heart thumping. He'd memorized the layout of the lower levels, every blind spot, every broken sensor. He turned a corner and nearly ran into a young Zenthian technician. The boy froze. Ronan's hand moved fast. He raised his finger to his lips. Shh. The boy blinked, confused. Ronan reached into his coat and pulled out a ration bar. He handed it over. For your silence. The boy hesitated, then nodded slowly and walked away. Ronan sighed and continued. He reached the fuel room. The heavy door slid open with a groan, and inside pipes hissed quietly. The smell of burning metal hung in the air. Ronan crossed to the west wall, heart racing. There it was, the control panel. He pulled the tools from his coat and got to work. His fingers moved fast. Wires, connections, passcodes. He'd studied Zenthian tech during the war. It wasn't pretty, but it was simple once you understood its logic. 10 minutes later, the panel blinked green. Success. 1 button, and every hangar bay door would open, just long enough for him to escape. But then, a noise behind him. Footsteps. He spun around, hand on his stolen plasma pistol. It wasn't Varel. It was Lieutenant Grask, the tall, cruel officer who'd beaten him on his second night in captivity. Grask's eyes widened in shock. "You," he snarled. "How did you—" Ronan fired, not to kill, but to knock the weapon from Grask's hand. Sparks flew. The two men slammed into each other, fighting across the metal floor. Ronan's ribs screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. He blocked a blow, punched hard, then kicked Grask into the wall. More footsteps approached. No time. Ronan hit the override. Sirens blared. Every bay door in the base began to unlock. Red lights flashed. He turned, ran for the tunnel hatch, and used the key. The metal door opened with a loud clang, and cold wind rushed in. The surface tunnel was narrow, but it led up into the open world. Ronan climbed. At the top, he burst through a hatch and rolled onto rocky ground. Above him, stars glimmered. The night sky was clear. Far in the distance, he saw the blinking light of the cargo pad. He made it. But as he stood, breathing hard, he saw movement behind him. Varel. She was running, alone, fast, breathless. They met halfway, panting. "They know," she gasped. "You have maybe 5 minutes before they seal the landing zone." He stared at her. "Come with me." She shook her head. "If I disappear, they'll hunt us both." "They'll do that anyway." "No," she said firmly. "I'll buy you time." She stepped back, hand over her comm. "Varel," Ronan said quietly, "I won't forget what you did." She gave a faint smile. "Don't remember me. Just stop this war." Then she turned and ran back toward the base. Ronan stood still, torn, then turned toward the pad. He had 5 minutes to disappear, and one chance to change everything. The landing pad was lit with blinking red lights, and the chill of the night wrapped around Ronan like a warning. Every step he took toward the cargo platform felt heavier, louder, like the ground itself was warning him. "Hurry, they're coming." The wind picked up, blowing dust and ash across the open field. In the sky, the distant hum of the approaching cargo craft echoed, a slow rumble that grew louder with each second. But time wasn't on his side. Ronan sprinted the last few meters, ducking behind a stack of fuel barrels near the far end of the pad. He peeked around the side, scanning for soldiers. None yet. Either Varel's distraction was working, or they were already closing in. He reached for the recording device in his belt, checked it again. Still intact. Still glowing faint blue. The truth was inside that tiny screen, proof the war was based on lies, that the humans never wanted it, that the Zenthian leaders had buried peace in silence and blood. He pressed a button on the side of the device, setting it to auto-broadcast once it hit human territory. It would be out of his hands then. Then he heard it. Footsteps. More than one. Fast. Getting closer. Ronan turned and ran for the landing ramp just as the cargo ship began to descend. Its engines kicked up dust in every direction, blinding, loud, hot. The wind screamed and the air shook. But through the storm of sound he saw the glow of rifles. Zenthian soldiers. 5 of them. And in the middle of the group, Grask. His face was bruised, one arm burned, but his hatred burned brighter. He pointed at Ronan. "There, the human!" "Open fire!" someone yelled. Blasts of plasma lit up the night. Ronan dove, rolled across the concrete, and took cover behind a support beam. He fired back twice, warning shots not aimed to kill, just enough to push them back. The cargo ship's ramp touched the ground. An automated voice called out, "Cargo drop sequence, initiating." Ronan made his move. He dashed for the ramp, legs burning, lungs screaming. A shot grazed his side. Heat and pain exploded through his ribs. But he didn't stop. He grabbed the edge of the ramp and pulled himself inside. The pilot, a young human woman in a gray uniform, looked up in shock. "Who the hell—" "No time!" Ronan shouted. "Close the ramp and get us out. Now!" She hesitated only a second, then slammed the panel. The ramp began to rise. Outside, more shots were fired. Sparks flew. One blast struck the closing door, but it held. The ship lifted off, fire roaring beneath them. From the cockpit window, Ronan saw the Zenthian soldiers below, tiny, furious shadows, and in the distance, near the edge of the cliffs, a smaller figure standing still, watching. Silently, Varel, she didn't run, she didn't hide. She just stood there, letting the fire and smoke rise around her like a warrior who had chosen her fate. Then, an explosion. From the far end of the base, a fuel line erupted. Fire spread fast. Black smoke climbed high into the stars. The base's alarm screamed across the valley. Ronan knew she did it. A final distraction. A fire big enough to cover his escape completely. The pilot looked at him again, wide-eyed. "Who are you?" He sank into the seat beside her, breathing hard, blood on his side. "Just a man who saw the truth, and I need to get it home." Handed her the recording device. "Transmit this to Central Command. Full priority. Use all secure channels." She nodded, already punching in the codes. Outside, the flames continued to rise. The sky lit orange behind them. Ronan leaned back, closed his eyes. He saw her face, Varel. The way she didn't hesitate. The way she stood between him and death more than once. She'd risked her name, her career, her life, all because he hadn't pulled the trigger. He opened his eyes again, staring at the stars. "Don't let it be for nothing," he whispered. The ship passed through the clouds and entered the black of space. Silence fell inside. Only the hum of the engines remained. But then, the device buzzed in the pilot's hand. Transmission sent. The truth was on its way. And somewhere far below, fire and smoke covered the scars of war and the start of something new. Ronan stood in front of the tall windows of the human command tower, watching the stars stretch across the sky. It had been 3 days since the ship brought him back. 3 days of silence, questions, suspicion. The transmission had arrived, before he did. Uncut, untampered. The video of alien generals agreeing to peace, the date and time logs, Varel's quiet voice speaking truth to power. The council had watched in stunned silence. And then, the orders stopped. No new attacks. No more dropships sent to the front lines. A full investigation had begun. It would take time, long time, but something had shifted. Not with missiles or weapons. With a message. The door behind him slid open. General Amara stepped in. Her uniform, sharp, her face unreadable. "You look better," she said. Ronan turned. His ribs were bandaged, shoulder stitched, but he was standing. Still breathing. "You're lucky." "I had help," he said simply. She walked to the window beside him. "We confirmed the explosion at the Zenthian base. Multiple injuries, but no confirmation on who started it." He didn't answer. Amara gave him a sideways glance. "And the alien who saved you?" He looked down at his hands. "I don't know if she's alive. You think she is?" "I hope." The general was silent a moment. Then she said, "High Command wants to speak with you again. This time not as a prisoner or soldier, but as a witness." Ronan turned toward her. "What are they planning?" "Talks. Quiet ones. First contact with Zenthian commanders. If your story's true and the footage real, then everything changes." He gave a slow nod. "It is real. She gave up everything for it." "She didn't just save you," Amara said. "She may have saved us all." Later that night, alone in his quarters, Ronan opened the drawer beside his bunk and pulled out the peace crest Varel had given him. He ran his thumb across the surface. It was scratched, worn, old, but powerful. It reminded him of her eyes, fierce, sad, brave. And then, a chime. He blinked, looked toward his console. One unread message. Unknown sender. Encrypted. He opened it. A small video window appeared. Static. Then, Varel. Her hair was shorter. Her face looked tired. But she was alive. She didn't speak right away. Just looked. into the camera for a long moment, then, "If you're seeing this, I made it out, not far, just far enough." She glanced over her shoulder. In the background, rocky hills and a flickering campfire. "I can't go home. They branded me a traitor. But a few of my squad disappeared too. Maybe they saw what I saw. Maybe they believed me. Maybe there's hope." She paused. "I don't regret it." Her voice was softer now. "You didn't shoot. I didn't either. Maybe that's where it starts." The message ended. Ronan stared at the screen for a long time, then leaned back, smiling faintly. He sent a message back. No words, just coordinates. A place, neutral ground, where one day two people might meet again. Not as enemies, not as soldiers, but as something new. Weeks passed. Whispers of ceasefire spread across both worlds. Secret meetings. Cautious messages. Truth spreading faster than bullets. One day, on a quiet moon orbiting neither Earth nor Zenthia, a small camp was built. 2 flags were raised side by side, and under them stood 2 figures, a human in worn armor, and an alien with a scar on her cheek and fire in her eyes. They didn't need to speak. Their presence said enough. They had started something others were now ready to finish. Peace.